Right, it's time for today's featured artist, and it's a joy to have the next guest on the show. Literally, we have Joy Denalane. Thank you for joining me on today's program. It's nice to have you on board.
Hi, thanks for having me. How are you?
Very good. And yourself, how are you keeping during these times?
I'm doing good. I mean, of course, these times are hard for everyone who's in the sector of
Yeah.
music. But for some reason, I've been working so much, aside of live performances, that I can clearly say I'm doing fine.
That's lovely to hear, and hard work does pay off. I've just been looking at all your biographies and your promotions, and you have been very busy. And we're here to discuss your latest single and album. But first, were you always surrounded by music where when you were growing up?
Well, when I grew up, I was really inspired by my father's record collection. He would buy every Saturday new records, soul, funk, jazz, blues records, and not only he would play them for us, but he would also allow me and my siblings. They were five and me, so we were six and all in all. He allowed us to play his records whenever we wanted, and so I did. I ended up in front of his record collection, playing all the old records, and I loved them. And I think this is where I really started. I guess grow into the love for music, vocal expression, and so on.
And great, that's fantastic to hear. Your new album as well. Am I right? It's called "Let Yourself Be Loved." And how many tracks are there on the album? And are they all originals?
I think there's 16. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think there's 16, and one of them is not original. One of them is a cover version of Bill Withers' "Use Me," which I was asked to do for a movie. And in the beginning, when they proposed, the offer, can I see myself doing that? I was a bit skeptical about it because covers is a very delicate thing, specifically covers from very famous artists. And the song Use Me has been covered a million
Mm.
times, I would probably say. And, you always have to find a new way, a new approach to a song, and you have to make it yours. And so I told them, you know what, I will try something. And if I feel comfortable or confident with it, then I will show you the song. And then I went to the studio, me and my producer, who was also very skeptical in the beginning. He said, "What? Making a cover from Use Me? That's kind of crazy." And we ended up having fun in the studio. And there's always a moment between me and my producer where when we know something is going well. And we had that energy in the moment we recorded the song. And so we said, okay, let's keep it. And I put it on the record also to honor the late Bill Withers, who really inspired me also as a singer.
And the album you mentioned, 16 tracks. The listener gets very good value for money. There's some bonus tracks on there as well. Also, the album available in many formats as well, including vinyl as well.
Yes, and I want to talk about the vinyl version because it's very dear to me. I got the chance to work with an illustrator who's very important in a certain scene. Do you know the New York magazine, The New Yorker?
Yes, I have heard of it.
Yeah, and it's a very traditional, very cool old journalist magazine that stands for its fierce illustrations, really worldwide. And so I one day looked at one issue, and I was so in love with the work of the illustration. And I told myself one day I'm going to work with a person like that. And little did I know that 2 weeks later somebody sent me a link of exactly that illustrator and said, you know what? Have you heard of this person? She lives just right around your corner. Maybe you want to contact her. And I was just totally blown away. And I found out her details and contacted her. And she's originally from Rome, Italy. And she studied in Paris, and then she moved to Berlin because Berlin is a place to be. And a lot of people from all over the world come to the city. And so she did as well. And I introduced her to my music and to the concept that I had in mind. that I wanted to create a vinyl box with 7-inch records. And I asked her whether she could think about or imagine herself illustrating each and every vinyl. And I think there are 7 of them. And she said yes, and that was really unbelievable. And so she illustrated all my vinyls and or sleeves, sorry. And I think they are beautiful and unique. And the box itself, the quality of the box is just so wonderful. I think it's a really great collector's item. And I usually don't really talk about my own products because I'm a bit intimidated by, I'm just not that kind of person. But for this one, I would really raise my hand and say, if you are in love with illustration and if you are in love with nice aesthetics and a real great quality, then maybe you should go and purchase that one. And if you're a lover of my music, of course, because it's really one of a kind, I think.
And sometimes you just can't be the physical product in hand with the illustration or the credits and the lyrics as well. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Am I correct? You originally signed on Motown Records as well, and is the Motown label still existing to this very day?
Say it again. I'm sorry.
Yes. Was one of your original albums signed on Motown Records, and does the Motown label still exist to this present day?
Yeah, it does. It does. And I think it's quite vivid and alive. And a colleague of mine, he heard my record once it was done, and he was so blown away by it that he asked me whether he could take the record to Motown to present it to them, and because he thought there was a great chance of interest from the side of Motown. And it was right. He came back with an offer, and I was blown away because I really did not expect it. And it made me also very proud, I must say, because I grew up on their sound. And of course, they have contemporary artists today who are very successful and who are not making soul music in that sense. But they still have a DNA. And I think they also felt touched by the sound that I made, and they felt reminded of their own DNA. And I think also I'm the first German and only German artist that ever signed to Motown. And to me, that is just something that that's something that you want to show your parents,
And congratulations. One of my next questions actually was, how does it feel to lead the way as one of the most influential soul artists in Deutschland, Germany?
Yeah. I mean, it feels good in one hand, but then on the other side, it's not as easy as it might look, because the music that I make does not really count here on the market. I think people really like me, and people are really loyal to me or towards me, and they've been following me for quite some time now. And for some reason, of course, my diehard fans, they do understand what it is that I'm doing. But for a broader audience, I am not so sure whether they are really familiar with the sound. I think they just understand that whatever it is that I'm doing, it is good, and they like that.
As long as it puts puts a smile on people's faces, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And listening to your music, that it sure does put a smile on people on my face anyway. And back to the album, has there been any collaborations on this new album as well you'd like to mention?
Mm-hmm. Well, I had the chance to work with one of my favorite soul and R&B singers, BJ the Chicago Kid, who I find is really an amazing singer. And then I also found out about this newcomer called C.S. Armstrong, who's like a real deep soul, and I think he just fitted perfectly. And we recorded a very beautiful duet together, I think at least, which is called Be Here in the Morning. And I think our voices really also fit quite well.
And this new album, it has a little bit of ingredients from each type of like soul, Motown, vintage as well. And one of the lead singles as well is titled It still ain't you. What's that song touch on? Still ain't you.
Yeah. Still, it ain't you touches on the situation after a breakup. There's a person that breaks up, and because they believe that they will do better without the person that they've been with, and then they step into their life and things look great, and all of a sudden they realize it's just not as great as it used to be because the person that I just left sort of is missing, and I can't share it with if you can't share something beautiful with a person that's close to you, then it's just half the how do you call that in English? It's just half the rent. We in Germany, we say it's half of the rent.
I'm with you. And just wrapping up the interview now, what would you like to say to people who are looking for their voice within? They're trying to reach their soul, but they're still trying to search themselves in some way. What would you like to say to those people?
I think I strongly believe that we all have our inner voice, and we all know what's right and wrong for us. I think it's more the problem of communication, how to communicate your feelings and how to be sure about your feelings, And I think this is what people need to work on. They need to find a language so that they can express their feelings and feel good about it. Because sometimes people say something that they really mean, but they are scared to say it. And then somebody else from the other side would just be like, push them a little bit, and then they just fall down. And I think that has to do with insecurity and things like that. So listen to your inner voice and make sure you find a way to communicate, bring across what you really, really feel, because you're always right. I mean, almost always.
That's priceless advice there. Following your conscience as well, and let yourself be heard as well. And speaking of being heard, we're going to get one of your tracks from your album played now on one of the shows now. And also want to say is thank you so much for taking time out to join me, Danny, from the UK syndicated show here in England. Joy Denalane, it's been a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much for your contribution on today's show. Fantastic.
Thank you.